The silent invasion. For centuries, humanity had been the newcomers to the galactic stage. Earth's first interstellar vessels departed our solar system just over 200 years ago, establishing colonies on distant worlds that seemed hospitable to human life. We were welcomed, if somewhat patronizingly, by the Galactic Confederation, a loose alliance of 17 spacefaring species who had maintained relative peace for millennia. The established species regarded humans as curious oddities, ambitious, resourceful, but ultimately primitive compared to civilizations that had traversed the stars for thousands of years. Humans were given territory in what the Confederation considered the galactic backwaters, a region sparse with habitable worlds and valuable resources. It was charity, they believed, to allow the young species room to grow without interfering with the established order. Earth and its 37 colonies existed peacefully for generations. Humanity focused inward, developing their modest territory, strengthening intercolonial ties, and advancing their understanding of technology, gleaned from limited exchanges with Confederation species. Few humans resented their place in the galactic hierarchy. Most were simply grateful to have found their place among the stars. The first warning came from Outpost Theta, a research station orbiting a gas giant in the Ta-CD system. The transmission was fragmented, distorted by unknown interference. Vessels of unknown configuration. No response to hails. Weapons unlike anything. They're not stopping. Evacuation underway. Please send. The message ended abruptly. When Confederation peacekeepers arrived 2 days later, they found only debris where the station had been. All 263 personnel had vanished. Within a week, similar reports emerged from the outer colonies. Entire settlements went silent. Patrol ships disappeared. The attacks followed no discernible pattern, striking indiscriminately across human space. The mysterious aggressors identified themselves in a single, chilling transmission broadcast across all human frequencies. We are the Sorn. Your presence is an affront. Your potential is a threat. Your extinction is necessary. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session. Humanity's representatives pleaded for military aid, but the response was tepid. The Sorn were unknown to the Confederation archives, a concerning development, but not necessarily a crisis that demanded unified action. The attacks were confined to human space. Therefore, it remained a human problem. Admiral Elena Kotova stood before the Confederation Council, her weathered face displaying none of the desperation she felt. If the Sorn are allowed to eliminate humanity, what guarantee do you have that they won't turn on your worlds next? She asked. Vrel, the Zoraxian delegate, rippled his chromatophores in dismissal. Our analysis suggests this is a territorial dispute. The Sorn, whoever they are, have targeted only human outposts. Perhaps they have historical claim to regions you've colonized. They've made their intentions clear, Kotova countered. They seek our extinction, not our withdrawal. Perhaps you've misinterpreted their meaning, offered T. Lara, the Ishari representative. Many species employ hyperbole in their communications. The debate continued for days while more human colonies fell. In the end, the Confederation offered only token support, a small detachment of observers, limited intelligence sharing, and permission for human refugees to seek asylum in Confederation territories. Earth's unified government declared a state of emergency. Every ship capable of combat was commissioned into the hastily organized Earth Defense Fleet. Colonial militias were federalized. Production facilities were converted to manufacture weapons and defensive systems. For the first time in generations, humanity prepared for total war. The Sorn proved to be formidable enemies. Their ships were biomechanical marvels, living metal that seemed to repair itself even during combat. Their weapons fired streams of particles that bypassed conventional shields. Their tactics were relentless, showing no concern for casualties or strategic withdrawal. Most disturbing was their appearance when finally captured on video during a ground invasion of New Eden colony. The Sorn were vaguely insectoid, standing nearly 3 meters tall on 4 backward-jointed legs. Their carapaces shimmered with an iridescent black-green luster. 4 manipulator limbs extended from their thorax, ending in appendages that seamlessly transformed between weapons and tools. Their sensory apparatus consisted of multiple crystalline structures arranged around a central node where a head might be expected. They communicated not through sound, but through rapid pulses of bioluminescence, a language impossible for humans to replicate. The few prisoners taken during early engagements died quickly, their biological systems simply shutting down, as if programmed to self-terminate upon capture. The first 3 months of the war were catastrophic for humanity. 12 colonies fell completely. Billions died or disappeared. The Sorn took captives for unknown purposes. The Earth Defense Fleet lost over 60% of its vessels. Morale plummeted as the enemy seemed unstoppable. Dr. Sanjay Mehta, a xenobiologist at the Mars Research Institute, made the first breakthrough. Studying footage from hundreds of engagements, he identified a pattern. The Sorn avoid direct contact with human blood, he reported to the Defense Council. When human casualties occur, the Sorn retreat temporarily from the affected area. The observation seemed trivial until combined with analysis from Dr. Cassandra Wu, a materials scientist. The Sorn ship's living metal shows microscopic degradation when exposed to iron-based compounds, she explained. It's subtle, but progressive. Their technology seems to have an adverse reaction to certain elements common in human biology. It wasn't much, but it was something. A potential weakness. General Mahmoud Ibrahim, commander of Earth's ground forces, immediately authorized development of new weapons. If they don't like our blood, let's give them a bellyful of it, he said grimly. The Crimson Protocol was implemented within weeks. Ammunition was coated with hemoglobin derivatives. Missile payloads were modified to disperse aerosolized iron compounds. Defense barriers were infused with similar elements. The Battle of Proxima Centauri II became the testing ground for humanity's new approach. The colony had been under siege for weeks, its remaining population huddled in underground shelters. The Sorn had established a forward operating base, using the conquered world to launch attacks deeper into human space. Operation Red Dawn deployed just 50 ships, all that could be spared, against a Sorn fleet 3 times their size. The human vessels were retrofitted with the new Crimson technology, their crews knowing this would likely be a one-way mission. Captain Maya Okonkwo commanded the assault from the UES Defiance. As they emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, she addressed her fleet. We are outnumbered and outgunned. But today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every human who has fallen and every human yet to be born. The Sorn believe we are weak. Today, we prove them wrong. The battle began conventionally. The Sorn moved to envelop the human fleet with their superior numbers. But instead of attempting to break through, Captain Okonkwo ordered her ships to hold formation and execute the Crimson deployment. The modified weapons had an immediate and dramatic effect. Where conventional armaments had barely scratched Sorn vessels, the new missiles caused spreading necrosis in their living hulls. Sorn ships began to convulse, their movements becoming erratic. Some turned on each other, firing indiscriminately, as if their control systems had been compromised. On the ground, Special Forces teams equipped with Crimson weapons reported similar success. The Sorn ground forces retreated from areas saturated with the iron compounds, abandoning strategic positions they had held for weeks. For the first time since the war began, humanity claimed a decisive victory. The cost was high. 28 ships lost, thousands of personnel killed, but Proxima Centauri II was reclaimed, and the Sorn were in retreat. News of the victory spread rapidly through human space. Colonies that had been preparing for evacuation instead began fortifying their defenses with the new technology. Volunteer enrollment in the defense fleet quadrupled overnight. The Confederation observers reported back to their council with evident surprise. The species they had dismissed as primitive had developed an effective countermeasure against an enemy the Confederation's own analysts had deemed nearly invincible. Admiral Kotova returned to the Confederation Council, this time not to beg for help but to present humanity's findings. We've identified the Sorn vulnerability and developed technologies to exploit it, she explained. We're prepared to share this knowledge with the Confederation in exchange for full membership and military support. The council chambers erupted in debate. Some members argued for maintaining distance from the conflict. Others, particularly those with territories adjacent to human space, advocated for intervention now that victory seemed possible. In the end, self-interest prevailed. The Confederation agreed to provide technological and logistical support, though stopping short of committing their own forces to combat. It wasn't the full alliance humanity had hoped for, but it was enough to turn the tide. As the first year of the war came to a close, humanity had stabilized its defenses. No additional colonies had fallen in the past 2 months. The Sorn attacks had become less frequent, more cautious. For the first time, humans dared to hope not just for survival, but for victory. In the depths of space, beyond the knowledge of either humans or the Confederation, the Sorn Collective processed this unexpected development. Their biological algorithms had calculated a 97.8% probability of human extinction within 18 months. Now that projection had fallen to 54.3%. The collective had miscalculated. Humans were not merely another species to be assimilated or eliminated. They were something the Sorn had not encountered in millennia of expansion. They were predators. The human response. Winter on Earth had always been a time of reflection, but the war had transformed the season into something else entirely. The Sorn attacks had slowed, giving humanity precious time to regroup and plan their next move. Admiral Elena Kotova stood at the window of the Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, watching snow blanket the city as she contemplated humanity's future. "They're adapting to our crimson technology," said General Ibrahim, studying the holographic display of recent battlefield data. "The effectiveness is dropping with each engagement." Dr. Cassandra Wu nodded in agreement. "Their biological systems are evolving countermeasures. We expected this. Then we must evolve faster," Kotova said, turning away from the window. "That's the advantage we've always had over every other species in the Confederation, our adaptability." The Earth Defense Council had been reconstituted with representatives from every colony, military branch, and scientific discipline. Gone were the political appointees and bureaucrats of peacetime. This was a war council, and it operated with ruthless efficiency. "The Sorn operate as a collective intelligence," Dr. Mehta explained, highlighting neural imaging of captured Sorn specimens. "Individual units function as extensions of the greater whole. They're powerful but predictable. They respond to new threats with predetermined algorithms. While we improvise," said Captain Okonkwo, newly promoted after her victory at Proxima Centauri. "We adapt not just between battles but during them." This fundamental difference became the cornerstone of humanity's new strategy. Rather than developing a single countermeasure, they created dozens, deploying them unpredictably across multiple fronts. While the Sorn Collective could eventually adapt to any specific threat, it struggled against constant variation. Operation Hydra launched 6 months after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, a multi-pronged offensive against Sorn-occupied territories. Each battle group employed different tactics, weapons, and countermeasures. Some used modifications of the original Crimson technology. Others deployed electromagnetic pulses tuned to disrupt Sorn communication. Still others utilized sonic weapons that exploited resonant frequencies in Sorn carapaces. For the first time, humanity took the offensive. The Sorn, accustomed to methodical conquest, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns of engagement. Human forces would strike, withdraw, regroup, and attack again using entirely different methods. The Sorn Collective struggled to formulate effective responses. The Battle of Ta Siti became the turning point. Here, where the first human outpost had fallen, a combined fleet of Earth and colonial vessels engaged the largest Sorn force he had encountered. The battle lasted 17 days, raging across an entire star system. When it ended, the Sorn had been driven back entirely from the system. leaving behind thousands of disabled ships and ground units. Examination of captured Sorn technology yielded another critical discovery. The Sorn vessels contain navigation data revealing the location of their primary worlds, not in some distant part of the galaxy, but in a region of space deliberately obscured from Confederation charts. The Sorn had existed alongside the Confederation for millennia, concealing their presence through advanced stealth technology and strategic disinformation. They've been watching us all along, Admiral Kotova realized. Not just humans, all Confederation species. The revelation was brought before the Confederation Council, along with evidence that the Sorn had previously eliminated 3 other developing species before they could achieve interstellar travel. The pattern was clear. The Sorn systematically removed potential competitors from the galactic stage, particularly species that showed specific traits. The Council finally recognized the threat to all spacefaring civilizations. A full alliance was formed, the first unified military coalition in Confederation history. Combined fleets were assembled, incorporating human crimson technology and tactical doctrines. As the alliance prepared its counteroffensive, a Sorn communication was intercepted and successfully translated. The message, intended for distribution throughout the Sorn collective, contained a singular warning. The humans represent Class 1 predator evolution. Historical analysis indicates 98.7% probability of competitive displacement if permitted continued expansion. Terminal containment protocols authorized. All resources diverted to immediate neutralization priority. Dr. Mehta presented his analysis to the combined Human Confederation Command. The Sorn evolved as cooperative collective organisms without natural predators. Their entire civilization is built on principles of gradual expansion through assimilation of compatible life forms and elimination of incompatible ones. And they see us as predators, Captain Okonkwo concluded. Not just predators, Dr. Mehta clarified. Apex predators, a fundamental threat to their evolutionary strategy. They fear us not for what we've done, but for what we represent. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The Sorn had attacked humanity because they recognized something that even the Confederation had missed. Humans possessed a competitive drive, adaptability, and predatory instinct unlike any other known species. The final offensive against the Sorn began 3 years after their first attack on human space. Operation Nemesis deployed the combined might of humanity and the Confederation against the hidden Sorn worlds. The battle was unlike anything previously recorded in galactic history, a clash between fundamentally different evolutionary approaches to survival. The Sorn fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction. Their worlds were heavily fortified, protected by planetary shields and automated defense systems thousands of years more advanced than anything the Confederation had developed. But they couldn't match the tactical flexibility of the Alliance forces, particularly the human battle groups that constantly shifted strategies to counter Sorn adaptations. Admiral Kotova commanded the final assault on the Sorn primary world from the bridge of the UES Humanity's Resolve. As Alliance forces breached the last planetary defenses, she received a direct communication request from the Sorn collective itself, the first attempt at dialogue since the war began. The message appeared as text across her command console. Why do you persist? Victory will bring only greater conflict. The pattern is clear across 1,000 worlds and 1,000,000 years. Predator species ultimately destroy themselves and all they touch. Kotova's response was transmitted to the entire Sorn network. We persist because that is what humanity does. We don't seek to destroy you, but we will not allow ourselves to be exterminated. Surrender, and we can find a way to coexist. There was a long pause before the reply came. Coexistence with predators is biologically unsustainable. This is not opinion. This is data accumulated across eons. Then your data is incomplete, Kotova answered. Humans have learned to channel our predatory instincts. We compete, yes, but we also cooperate. We protect. We build. Your fundamental mistake was assuming that predators can only destroy. The surrender of the Sorn Collective came not with a declaration, but with a gradual cessation of hostilities. Their ships powered down. Their ground forces stood immobile. The living architecture of their worlds dimmed as the collective processed its defeat. In the aftermath, humanity found itself in an unprecedented position. The species that had been relegated to the galactic backwaters was now recognized as a decisive military power. Confederation members that had once dismissed humans as primitive now sought alliances and technology exchanges. The Sorn themselves presented a complex challenge. Their collective intelligence made concepts like punishment or rehabilitation largely meaningless. In the end, a containment solution was implemented. The Sorn would retain autonomy within their existing territories, but be subject to permanent monitoring and restrictions on their expansion. 1 year after the war's end, Admiral Kotova returned to Earth for the dedication of a memorial to those lost in the conflict. Standing before the assembled representatives of humanity and the Confederation, she reflected on the transformation of humanity's place in the galaxy. The Sorn attacked us because they recognized what we ourselves had forgotten, that humans evolved as predators. They saw only the danger in that heritage, not understanding that the same instincts that drive us to compete also compel us to protect what we value. We have earned our place among the stars not despite our nature, but because of it. We are predators, yes, but we are also builders, explorers, and defenders. The galaxy has learned what the Sorn feared. Humans will fight with unmatched ferocity when threatened, but we will extend a hand in peace when given the chance. Our journey among the stars has only just begun. Let us carry forward the lessons of this war, that strength without restraint leads to destruction, but strength guided by wisdom can create a future beyond anything we have imagined. As night fell over Geneva, lights illuminated the memorial, a simple obelisk bearing the names of the fallen. Above it, stars emerged one by one in the darkening sky. Among them burned the distant suns where humanity had fought for its survival and proven its place in the cosmic order. The galaxy had witnessed the truth. Humans were indeed the apex predators of the stars, not because they were the strongest or most advanced, but because they had mastered the art of transforming their predatory nature into something the universe had never seen before: predators who protected, competitors who cooperated, and warriors who valued peace. In the vastness of space, other species took note. The age of humanity had begun.